welcome to the Big Bang Review Show. This is episode 3, part 2. And once again, we're talking all about this album. This 3 CD collection is called Aerosmith's Greatest Hits. Now, this is the 2023 collection, not to be confused with the Greatest Hits collection from 1980, also called the Greatest Hits. Now, I don't know why. Maybe they didn't call it the Greatest Hits too, but again, don't be confused. Now, between the two, this is a much better collection only because, the band's had a much longer career. In fact, last year, 2023, this album was released in conjunction with the band's 50th anniversary. Now, they're supposed to go on 50th anniversary tour, which is also going to coincide with the band's farewell tour. Although Steven Tyler's had some issues with his vocal cords, and so the tour's kind of been postponed, so we're waiting to hear what happens with that. Joey Kramer is not taking part in the farewell tour. Haven't much been told why. Just I know they've had some issues with him the last couple of years, so he's not part of the tour once it kicks off. But let's get all into this. Today we're going to be talking all about disc number 1. Now, when we're talking about today's episode about disc number 1, I felt that it's important to let you guys know that track 1, Mama Kin, one of my all-time favorite Aerosmith tunes. I remember from the first minute I heard this song. Going back 50 years ago, I was very young. Let's be honest. This Mama Kin was originally released in 1972, and I was about a year old. But going back with the band's had a 50-year career. I've been a huge Aerosmith, throughout the years. That was one of my all-time favorite Aerosmith songs from the minute I heard it, and it's just your typical Aerosmith song. Typical rock and blues. It's got that great Steven Tyler approach. Where nonsensical lyrics doesn't. I don't even know what Mama Kin is. I assume it's talking about having love for your mom. I don't know, but it doesn't even matter. It's just a great rockin' tune, and it kicks off the album. And so, disc number 1, you should know, it goes from 1972 all the way up to 1975 when they released Rock. So we get a great, just on disc 1 alone, you get a great introduction to who and what Aerosmith are. Who and what Aerosmith are, they've often been described as the American Rolling Stones. I've heard Steven Tyler talk over the years about he was a huge Rolling Stones fan, so you can definitely hear that influence in the band's music throughout their 50-year career. Now, let's talk about some of the other great songs on disc number 1. Now, this goes way back to the early era of the band. Same Old Song and Dance. Great kind of blues, nitty-gritty kind of, it's a little more raw than what Aerosmith would become. You go back to the first 2 albums, Aerosmith was kind of raw. They were trying to find their sound. They had more of a real kind of raw rock and roll blues feel to what they were doing. Same Old Song and Dance. It's kind of more of that, but it's just a great tune. When I think of Aerosmith, that's one of the songs I immediately think of. So it needs to be on this collection. Okay, another song that I think people will just love is SOS for Aerosmith. That's a little more of it's not exactly metal, but it's a little more heavier tune than what they're typically known for. And here's a fun fact. For years, I was wondering, what the hell is SOS? It's when you need help, it's a sign. Hey, SOS, we need help. It's something that, naval ships have, when they're in trouble. It's a signal, but no, that's not what this is. SOS, when I learned this recently, I thought, man, how cool is this? How is it that I never knew this until, just recently in 2024? But in doing research on some of these songs, I found out, okay, SOS, get this, same old shit. So simple, stupid and simple, but I love it. It's very rock and roll. Just another great tune. Dream On. Now, anybody that's an Aerosmith fan or even a casual fan will agree that it's a great tune. It's the epic track. It's one of the great first power ballads ever. And um, I must say, it's a track when you think of Aerosmith. It's a track a lot of people mean. Dream On. Oh, that's the song we always hear on. That's the epic power ballad, and it is that. But it is just another example of what Aerosmith can do. That's why if you're an Aerosmith or even a casual Aerosmith fan, you need to get this. Now this is a great song to listen to in your car. When you're driving. Um, just an all-around great greatest hits collection. But it is what it is. Okay. Season's a winner. Now we're talking about uh, Dream On being that epic track, that go-to radio hit that everybody thinks of when they think of Aerosmith. Now, Season's a winner is another song. I would call it, yeah, an epic ballad. It's got more of an epic um, feel to it. It's very different from Dream On. Both tracks are very good, but I think Season's a winner. If you love Dream On, you're gonna love Season's a winner even more. Check out Season's a winner. It's one of those tracks that, yeah, it's going back to the early days of the band, but one of those tracks I think is very underrated. Never, never got a lot of attention like it should have maybe. But a lot of the hardcore Aerosmith fans tell me Season's a winner is where it's at, and I totally agree. It's just a great track. Walk This Way. Come on now. Walk This Way, rock and roll, rap. How could you not like it? I mean, it's one of the first ever rap songs. And so for that reason alone, I think Aerosmith was way ahead of its time. Excuse me. Sweet Emotion, another great track off of Toys in the Attic. As far as albums, I go between Toys in the Attic and Rocks, two great, really solid albums back to back. But maybe I lean a little more towards Toys in the Attic because, again, Aerosmith for me, the quintessential song, believe it or not, has got to be Walk This Way. It's one of the first tracks I ever heard by the band. So when I think of Aerosmith, that's one of the tracks very much like Sweet Emotion or Toys in the Attic that I think of. And all these songs are on the Greatest Hits collection that was just released last November in 2023. So again, disc one, covers a huge era of the early Aerosmith era, from the 70s. All these great classic albums now. That's what this covers in disc one. And so for that reason alone, it's worth checking out. Sweet Emotion, another great rock track from Aerosmith. Not quite a ballad, but I tell you, the one thing that I always pay attention when I hear that song is Tom Hamilton's killer bass track that runs all the way through that song. And just listen to it. He was the principal songwriter for that. I think that's why the bass track is really the featured part. Tom Hamilton is another one that, as far as bass players go, very underrated. But I think Tom Hamilton, as much as people love to credit, Joe Perry and Steven Tyler for Aerosmith, I think, both Tom Hamilton and Brad Whitford kind of always been the secret ingredient to the band, that extra something, the band needed. I mean, Tom Hamilton, especially as a bass player, I think just his bass playing has really made Aerosmith, what it is. So way to go, Tom Hamilton. Because again, when I think of Sweet Emotion, it's the bass track that runs all through that song. So, when I think of Sweet Emotion, I think of Tom Hamilton's, bass playing. And, Sweet Emotion is such a killer tune that when they put out their first box set, Pandora's Box, years ago, they re-released that as a single, Sweet Emotion. They shot a new video clip because at that time, video clips were still a big deal on MTV. And see, Aerosmith's career goes from the 70s into the 80s and even the 90s and the 2000s. And so at that time, they were making videos. They very much had their major comeback, with Permanent Vacation, which was released in 1987. So again, Aerosmith, just I got nothing but love for those guys. So go out and get the greatest hits collection. Today we've been talking all about disc number one, and believe me, we're just getting started because disc number one, as much as I love all the songs on disc number one, I got to tell you, disc two and disc number three, the songs kick just as much ass. But again, we are just getting started. And to end this episode today, we're going to end it talking about the song Home Tonight. Very much like Seasons of Winter, it's another one of those songs that I think people have forgotten about. It's one of those kind of lost tracks. So if you do go and buy this, do yourself a favor. Listen to the song Home Tonight. It's what ends disc number one. And what a killer way. I don't know if it's fair to call this a ballad. It's definitely not a rocker, but again, in a word, I'll say epic. It's a great epic track. And so again, go out and get Aerosmith's Greatest Hits 2023 collection. And it does not disappoint. We've been talking about disc number one, got a great a total track listing of 15 tracks. So just for disc one, you get 15 great tracks. We are just getting started now. To end this with, I'm going to say for disc number one, I'm going to give disc number one a score of 25 because all the songs on here are all the songs I want to be included and then some. Like I said, any Aerosmith Greatest Hits collections have to have Walk This Way, Sweet Emotion, Toys in the Attic. These are songs that I would expect to see. We get that and so much more. And then like get songs like Home Tonight, Seasons of Winter. Let me tell you, check those two tracks out. Does not disappoint. So we will see you next week for part 3 of episode number 3 of the Big Bang Review Show. I am Jason J. Rock Houston. We will see you next time. Take care. Bye for now.